What's happening, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Unparalleled Sports Talk with yours, Kwame Fisher Jones. As always, I am him. And I'm talking NBA. Somehow I'm joined by my man, Everett Terry Jr., Sports Talk Terry on all social media platforms. Now, initially, I wanted to open the conversation and talk about Ja, pick up where we left off with the
Um,
Jalen Brunson, Ja Morant discussion. But I want to talk Jonathan Kuminga. It was a great debate on Gil Arenas, and not even a debate, discussion about
yeah,
why Kuminga is still with Golden State. And they talked about general managers. They talked about Mike Dunleavy Jr. And I want to say it was either Mashard McCants or Gilbert, but I'm going to say it was McCants. He had a great quote. The quote was verbatim. He stated that it's old school general managing. It was Gilbert. It was not McCants. It was Gilbert. Gilbert said it's old school general managing where I'm going to devalue my guy, devalue my commodity to show that it's not me that's the problem, that they're the problem. But then when they do this, they have a hard time getting, quote, value for the player. And then it winds up trickling down into the player's career. Player goes to a bad place, his career goes in the toilet. That was McCants, who then came back and said, that's what they do when you're not doing what they want or you're not part of their network or club or they're not good at their job, they belittle you and hamper your career and kill your career. Fast forward, Jonathan Kuminga gets hurt, hurts his knee, hurts his ankle, and now is out for an infinite amount of time. They're going to use that as an excuse for why they don't trade Jonathan. Now, we were having a discussion before we went on air about the industry we're in, about broadcast journalism, radio, and sports. And I was saying that the gatekeepers that were hired have done a poor job, and that's why the industry went in the toilet, and that created an opportunity for so many independent people. It's the same thing in NBA. The general managers are awful. Jonathan Kuminga never should have set foot in Golden State this year. He should have been traded in the offseason. They should have
I agree.
maximized the values, the maximize the value of what was available at that time. What does that mean exactly? If you're only getting 3 second round pick offers, then you take somebody who's giving you the fourth second round pick and you cut your ties and you move forward. You cannot move forward with an albatross, with a wagon, with any type of extra weight pulling forward. Going into the season, everyone knew Jonathan Kuminga was on the trading block. It was not like he was going to have this lights out season and you were going to get six number ones a la Rudy Gobert. That wasn't going to happen. You weren't going to get what was the other guy that got traded? Desmond Bain deal. That wasn't going to happen. Those are aberrations. Those are not the standard in which deals are made. We now sit here. Golden State just lost Jimmy Butler.
Yep. Unfortunate.
Now they're stuck in a situation where they were teetering. I want to say they were a fringe playoff contender with Butler. Now they probably won't make the playoffs, at best play and lose in one game. Everyone's talking about maximizing Steph's final years. My question for you, well, I'm going to ask you that question, but my bigger question for you is who's the person to blame in this situation? Is it Kuminga for signing the deal? Is it Mike Dunleavy for not getting it done? Or is it the front office entirely for Golden State for drafting a player and not developing? Floor is yours.
So there's a three-prong answer to your three-prong question. Jonathan Kaminga deserves some culpability if he wanted out that bad. He just shouldn't have signed the contract. But I understand as a player, you got to get your money while you can. You can get hurt tomorrow and never play basketball again. So I don't fault him.
And
The
he got
NBA has
hurt.
guaranteed deals. That part. However, Gil also brought up a great point in the arena. He said you don't get hurt, you fake hurt. Ow, my knee, when there's nothing wrong with your knee. So you can sit out the whole season
Oh,
and
man.
jam them. And because Jimmy went down, then you strap a team with a healthy guy sitting at the bottom of the roster that's capable of giving you 18 to 20 per game, who's going to give you nothing because he doesn't want to be there and you don't want him there. Kerr also deserves a lot of culpability here because a lot of people aren't putting enough blame at Kerr's feet. You are the coach. I don't care if I brought in Tweedledee, Manny Mo, and Jack. Your job is to put whoever I bring in out on the floor, get the most out of them, and put the best five players on the floor. You're not telling me that Jonathan Kuminga ain't better than Moses Moody. He ain't better than B Pod. He ain't better than Gary Payton the 12th or whatever his number is. You're not selling me that. All you're selling me is that you don't want him to play for whatever reason you don't want him to play. But when he has played, all we've seen him do is put up 18 to 20 points per game and be a spark plug to an offense that outside of Steph was pretty anemic after Clay fell down. When Clay went down, they didn't have that secondary scorer. They got Jimmy, yeah, but Jimmy we know plays, 3 games in, 1 game off. Kaminga was willing to play every game. And there was a period a year or so ago where Kaminga was putting up 20 points a game, I don't know, 7, 8, 9, 10 games in a row. And they were wondering, like, why don't they give this kid more time? That's the only reason why people are so baffled as to why it is y'all don't sit down in a room and hash this thing out and make him happy. Y'all figure it out and y'all move forward. Or you trade him and get value. Because here's the thing, you know what you saw in that 1 game he played? Oh, Kaminga can still light it up. He's doing it in spite of you, not because of you. So where they messed up is Dunleavy should have pulled the trigger on a deal, and to your point, got the max value they could have, whether it was an expiring deal, somebody that's a scorer, that could put some points on the board, and maybe some expiring contracts. Whatever you had to do in order to make the trade happen, you make that trade happen and you get him out of there. But to keep him cash strapped and hip tied to the organization, you don't want him. He don't want to be there. Nobody wins in this. Golden State is not maximizing Steph's final few years at all. You don't know what they're doing with the roster. They were talking about going to get Michael Porter Jr., then they were talking about getting Giannis. Now they're not getting anybody. They just going to be a mediocre team, and they're going to sit here and waddle away, maybe be, to your point, somewhere between the 6 and the 10 seed and get smoked in the first round against the Spurs or Oklahoma City or Minnesota.
Okay, let me chime in a couple of things there. I disagree with you. I don't think the culpability falls on Kaminga at all because as a player, you always have this belief that things can work out. That you'll figure out this will be the year when you break through. I don't hold Steve Kerr accountable only because I don't I I don't want to use harsh language. I expect a freaky girl to be a freak. So I'm not blown away when she's a freak. I don't consider Kerr a great players development coach. Like he doesn't develop guys. I don't consider him to be a master statistician or tactician. So I'm not upset that he didn't develop the Kaminga.
He don't
I'm
want to
not upset.
play.
And but here's the thing. I'm not upset that he didn't play him because in his mind, he was putting the best guys to help him win the game, which goes back to that he's not a master tactician. He's not. He doesn't make it just like and Steve Kerr's and I don't want to elongate this debate, but just hear me out on this. In his duration as a coach in the playoffs, have the Golden State Warriors ever had a guy come out of nowhere in a playoff series? Think about that. Exactly. The eyes rolling around means you're like, damn, I can't think about that. When you think about your great head coaches, whether it's Phil Jackson with Cliff Levingston way back in the 90s, and then you fast forward, it's Luke Walton way back in 2000, I'm trying to think of when it was what was that guy's Greg Popovich with San Antonio. Insert player a player under there, whether it's the just because I'm trying to think of it. Basically, San Antonio always has a player come out of nowhere, whether it's Bruce Bowen in a playoff series or guys like that to just come out of nowhere, light it up, and move on. You want to go to Miami? You know what I mean? Mario Chalmers having a good run out of nowhere. Those speak to your coaches putting players in great positions to be tacticians and have great series. That's not Steve Kerr. So I'm not faulting him for being what he is. My issue rests squarely on Mike Dunleavy Jr. Do your job, my guy. Put it on a t-shirt. Do your job. Bill Belichick, do your job. That's what Bill Belichick used to tell his players. Do your job. Your job is to put the team in the best position to win. Bringing in a guy who's not going to play, essentially creating a hostage situation where you are holding this guy for ransom, does not help your team win. You signed Al Horford in the offseason. You couldn't make a trade to trade Kaminga to somebody and add Al Horford in the deal. Like, come on, man. What are we talking about? And I'm going to say this to you, and you're going to tell me I'm crazy. Butler goes down. You're about to pay Jimmy Butler $50 million next season. And
And he
this
might
dude
not play at
wasn't,
all.
but think about it, this dude wasn't lighting up this year. And now he's coming off an injury. So you know what you do if you're Golden State?
Blow it up.
You're going to say I'm bugging. No, you're going to say I'm bugging. You need a guy who can be a third wheel and who can play defense for you. Who doesn't have to play every game, but show up in the playoffs and not show up like give you monster numbers, but
I
just
know
be
what you're about to say.
get Daryl Morey on line one, trade for Paul George, and take McCain and send over Jimmy Butler. And if you're Daryl Morey, you suck up the fact that you screwed it up. You signed Paul George to a bad deal. You pay Jimmy Butler his $53 million going into this final season next year, and now you have a trade commodity in Jimmy Butler. You no longer have Paul George sucking the win out of the three spot in Philly. And if you're Golden State, you have a guy in Paul George who will give you numbers every 12th or 24th game, and who you can sell to your fan base, and who's not going to get on the books for $50 million. $50 million for a dude that is not going to play. And you get a young guard that you may be able to work, because Golden State doesn't have a I don't say a lead guard, but doesn't have a ball distributor. If you're the Sixers, you got redundancy in your backcourt, you got redundancy in your wings. Two dudes who can't seem to do their job. Get in on the line and work this deal out. And as far as Kuminga's concerned, if you want to throw him into a deal to Charlotte, fine. You want to throw him in a deal to Orlando, fine. But at some point, dude, the market is what it is. Yesterday's price is not today's price. And you have screwed this up mightily from day one. I just got to say this too, because it infuriates me. What position does Jonathan Kuminga play? You're 2-3, right?
3-4.
All right, you want to say 3-4, small four, small power four. That's fine. But you would pretty much say to me that different style of play, but essentially same position as Jimmy Butler, right?
Yeah.
So why bring in Kuminga when you just signed Jimmy Butler to a $50 million per year deal? If ever there was a testament to I can't do my job, that was it. Floor is yours.
So I'm gonna agree with the point about why bring in Jimmy Butler if you have a Jonathan Kuminga, which goes back to Kerr with the development. My issue with Kerr in the development is the fact that he gave him coach's decision DMPs. Like, he's not even putting them on the floor. You're not telling me in the games they're winning or losing, you can't find 10, 15, 20 minutes for him. That's
Yeah, you can if
Kerr.
you're Steve Kerr. If you
But you
can't do
don't
that,
want you're not trying to. And that
he's
comes
not
back
good
to
at
my
that.
point.
You're right. You're
But
right.
but 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 to the point about the trade, I didn't expect you to say Paul George there. You know what I expected you to say? A guy who's been in the headlines recently because his name has come up when the owner was grinding him into oblivion, talking about how she regretted certain things that he's done being there, even though he made the franchise relevant.
That ain't gonna happen.
I thought you were going to say LeBron,
That's not
because
gonna happen.
I think the Lakers want LeBron to request a trade so they can truly make this Lucas team, because maybe they feel they can't get max value for him. Him to Golden State would be crazy, because he stays in California. He gets to play with Steph, which he's talked about wanting to do, and it makes them immediately relevant again. And he's got
No.
the contract and the money to make the deal make sense. I'm just telling you what I thought. I did not expect you to say Paul George. You said somebody that shows up for the playoffs, and I'm like, who are
No,
you
I
talking
didn't say
about? It's got to
shows
be
up for the
LeBron.
playoffs and plays. I mean, and plays lights out. I said someone that will be physically on the court during the playoffs. That was all I said. Will
Well,
make it to the
well,
parking
even
lot.
even if you interchange the lingo, why couldn't it be LeBron? It's been rumored for him to go to Golden State for like 3 or 4 years. It makes sense. The Lakers are good, but they're not a great team. They're not better than OKC. They're not better than the Spurs. They just got thumped in the head by the Clippers, who suddenly have won 14 out of 17. It makes sense, because here's the thing. If you can't win with LeBron, you might as well get value for him, so you lose him for nothing. I heard that they said he felt he was ungrateful about them going out and drafting Bronny and this, that, and the third. I'm like, listen, it was a second round pick. It wasn't a first pick. Like, get off your high horse. Like, who cares? Like, and for all that it's worth, he made the Lakers relevant again, because Boogie Cousins literally said before LeBron got there, they were getting
Nobody was trying.
mollymopped by everybody in LA. The Clippers owned them. So he made them a place of destination again. And this is how you treat them. This is how you repay them. And I give kudos to LeBron. He hasn't said a word about it because he don't have to. He gonna let everybody else speak for him. And that's the difference when there's levels to this, in terms of being who you are and being who you should be. The problem in the Kaminga situation is Kaminga's being who he is, and the Warriors want him to be who he should be. And because those two sides don't align, that's why they're at a standstill. The best thing they can do is try to get value for Kaminga ahead of the deadline. But now that he's hurt, who knows? Try to get a team that'll take a flyer on him. I think he would fit great in a couple of destination spots. Doesn't really matter which one you pick, because he's going to be a role player, a contributor. But the fact that you got a 20-point per game scorer sitting on your bench getting DMP coaches' decisions is crazy in today's NBA when you're losing games single digits as you got Moses Moody out there 2 for 17 from the field or whatever, or Pye going
Hold
one
on,
for
hold on,
nine.
hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. You said they're at a standstill. They're not at a standstill, my guy. They're at a slide. They're
No,
sliding
fair enough. Fair enough.
still, it's like the whole "what's good, son?" Maintaining that doesn't exist in this world. You're either going up, you're going down. Golden State's going down. We'll transition to the Lakers in a second. I just want to shut the door on the words. We both agree that the culpability rests squarely on you, front office. You also believe there's culpability on Kerr. I understand your point. The only reason why I disagree with your premise is just because I don't believe that's who Steve Kerr is. I can't point to, and I could be missing somebody in the wings here, but player development, like this was a well coached game. Those aren't things that you hear mentioned with the name of Steve Kerr. Like he was just arguing with his Hall of Fame power forward who has exceeded all expectations. He's arguing them on the sidelines as if that's going to motivate him. As if we need to motivate Draymond Green. Like I think Steve Kerr is what he is. My issue rests squarely on the fact that as a general manager, you got a job to do. And re-signing this dude with the hopes of, like, dude, you get a seven-figure salary and hope is your plan. You get a seven-figure salary and you walk into the building, scan your card, put your code in, log onto your computer, sit down and say, I hope it works out. If you don't get out the office with that, if you don't go that way, just think about that. Hope it works out. So you mentioned LeBron James going to Golden State. The reason why that would not happen, we're going to transition to Lakers, is two things. I believe in this stage of LeBron's career, playing in front of his family, being home, maximizing these last few years matter to him. I don't believe he's chasing another title. I just don't. Also believe that he knows going to Golden State doesn't get him closer to an NBA title. This is a young man's league at this point. OKC was not an aberration. The success that San Antonio was having is not a mistake. Boston is not a mistake. I mean, dude, you want to even go further down the line? Freaking Detroit coming out of the depths of the mud. It's not a mistake. It's a young man's league at this point. The biggest problem and the second problem you have in the Lakers is we have a failure to communicate. We have a failure to communicate that JJ Redick sucks. I said it. I'm gonna, if it was Jerome Redick on the sidelines, we'd be talking about his job. Because Darvin Ham, Frank Vogel, and what I mean by Jerome, not in a black sense, but as a sense of a guy that wasn't Mr. Popular, wasn't someone that people anointed, and was just a NBA grinder. We would be talking about them being Darvin Ham, Frank Vogel, who won a championship. It's not me there. Frank Vogel, who won a championship. We're not talking about those guys. We're talking about JJ Redick. No head coaching experience and can't seem to get a team with Luka Doncic and LeBron James out of the middle of the mud. Now you're going to tell me it's Luka's defense, and I'm going to tell you it's motivation. You're going to tell me it's Luka's defense. I'm going to tell you it's poor strategy. You're going to tell me it's Luka's defense, and I'm going to tell you Luka Doncic has been to multiple Conference Finals. JJ Redick ain't been to one. Floor is yours.
I think sometimes guys take time to gel, schemes take time to fit. I used that argument in year one with JJ Redick because I didn't think he was worthy of getting an opportunity to coach a team that was ready made like the Lakers with a talent like Luka and LeBron on the floor. I do think that there are gaps in their roster that create some mismatches that hurt them. I also don't think JJ is a great adjuster in game. I think that a lot of times it's the veteran leadership that makes the adjustments on their own, and he just co-signs it. Do I think he should lose his job? It's hard to lose your job when you're that many games over 500 and you're a top four team in the West. But when you look around, you're right. They're not a team that can compete with the three teams ahead of them that you mentioned, the Clippers or the Spurs or
Throw Minnesota in that
even the
list.
Thunder.
Throw
Minnesota's on
Minnesota.
that list. Minnesota's on that list too because they've got one man, Mr. Ant Man, who does it all. So yes, I agree. Um, do I think that there's wiggle room for the Lakers to improve? Yeah, but I think JJ has to schematically scheme up some things and write in some different plays, and I just don't think he's going to do that. He's comfortable, so yeah, he might not be around long term. That's all I got.
You know, and I'm more. passion, like my passion for this topic is because I never thought he should have gotten the job. I felt like Sam Cassell had earned that job, and he should have gotten it, and it didn't work. My my frustration or the reason why I went so hard on it is just simple. I feel like we're sitting here watching LeBron and Luca, and we're blaming LeBron and Luca. Like just those type of resumes, that type of level of play. There, it's more to it than just those two. They've built up enough equity in the league for people to look a little deeper, dig a little deeper. Don't take the low hanging fruit. Now, with that said, I'll get you out on this one. Last
Mm-hmm.
week we had a passionate debate about John Morant and Jalen Brunson. And see, there goes the smile. Now he's waking back up. I stand 10 toes down on this. I'm watching Ja fly around the court. I'm watching Ja do some things. Like I got the Bill Cosby head roll going. Watching Ja do some things that gets me excited. And I'm watching the Knicks have a 54-point win with Jalen Brunson. And I'm thinking to myself, eh. Now, to your point, though, and I want to give you credit, that type of deal is not going to happen in the middle of the season. That type of deal happens in the offseason. I believe the Knicks will trade for Ja Morant this offseason should they fall short again of reaching the NBA Finals. I think that you would agree with me that should they fall short of the NBA Finals, not the Eastern Conference Finals, the NBA
Okay,
Finals, and I don't say a watered down East, but an East that can be had. There's no clear favorite. Even if Tatum comes back, there's no clear favorite.
I agree.
Would you then, would you then consider a Jalen Brunson for John Morant trade?
If they don't make it to the Eastern Conference Finals or make it to the
No,
finals.
the NBA Finals. Dude, the Eastern Conference Finals should be a given. There's not four teams better than the New York Knicks on paper in the Eastern Conference. And they've only got to beat two to make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. So,
Okay.
you know what I mean? They're a top four team, I think, on paper at least. And I would say, even on the record, I got to look it up, but even record wise, they're a top 14.
I think that the trade makes sense.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Now that you agree with me, I don't know if I want to do it.
Well, hold on. I think the trade makes sense if the Ja you've seen the last week or so is the Ja that you get. But my argument from last week stays the same. I don't think the Ja that you see last week or the better part of the last week is the Ja that you get. He comes to New York, city of big lights, way too much nightlife, way more than Memphis, way too many distractions. He comes to a city that is going to have every eyeball possible on him, yes, but he's a South guy. He don't fit in a city like New York with his behavior, his mindset. He's not mature enough for a city like New York. They tell you got to have a different kind of personality to play in certain cities. Philly, New York, Boston. You got to have a different personality. And I just don't think he has the personality traits of what's necessary to play and thrive there in the best version of himself. I also hate the fact that he can't stay healthy. Like, that's a big deal. And they go and they trade for him and he gets hurt the later half of a season and misses the playoffs or doesn't play. They're going to crucify him. So his best bet is to kind of go somewhere similar to a fan base that will actually accept him for who he is. That's where it is. I don't think that that's New York. I think it's like the Pelicans, like somewhere where it's just like, all right, Josh here, woo.
Pelicans. Oh, my God. All right. See, now you're bugging. Okay. Four top four teams in the Eastern Conference. Detroit at a 76 win percentage. Boston at number two. And at some point, we got to give Jalen Brown his credit for being one of the best players in the NBA. Looks like my co-host is falling asleep on me. At some point, we got to give Jalen Brown best player for being one of the MVP conversation. But no, the Knicks at this point need to shake it up. Point blank period. They need to shake it up. They've reached their ceiling with Jalen Brunson. And everything you're saying at 26 and 18, third seed in the Eastern Conference, they're
Mm-hmm.
only they're only two losses out of second place. They're not going to catch Detroit. Detroit is running away with the conference at this point.
Yeah, they're
But
not catching Detroit.
you're telling me that Ja Morant with that lineup with OG and I stand on the OG
They're
and
talking
McKay
about they're talking about
because
trading Towns.
yeah, they're not going to. There's no market for Towns at this point. There's no market for Towns at this point. There's nobody that's going to give you any. I mean, yeah, you can trade him for Embiid, but like, there's no real market for for Towns anywhere. Like, nobody wants Karl Anthony Towns. And it's not a shot at Karl Anthony Towns. Well, I like Karl Anthony Towns, but it's nothing out there. Brunson is the only commodity that's worth anything that can get you a job, Morant, and Towns is the perfect three. And OG and Mikal come interchangeable at two. You're adding Josh Hart's defensive 3D player. That fits. I understand the market, but there's another side to that. And this is it. After this, I'm gonna let you go. No one wins, no one wins more than mediocre players in New York. No one wins more than good players in New York. And no one wins more than great players in New York. Patrick Ewing is not even a top 10 center in the NBA history. Not even a top 10. But because he played in New York, he's viewed as one. The Knicks weren't even at best when Ewing was in his prime. The Knicks were probably maybe the third best team in the Eastern Conference. You would have
Oh
thought
yeah,
that
because they
they.
were playing behind Jordan and the Bulls. They were always going to be second fiddle to them.
No, I didn't say second. I said third. I said third.
Right. I'm saying at best they were second fiddle, but they were always going to be
So,
behind them.
but you would think Patrick Ewing was up there with Wilt, Bill Russell, and Shaq because he played in New York. Like it all comes back to you win in New York. You're one of the best. You're one of the best to ever do it. That's what Ja would thrive in. The scrutiny, all those things, he'd be all right. He'd be all right because he's built for those things. He's not built for the idle time that is the devil's playground that goes on in Memphis. That's the problem. That's the problem. That idle playground, that idle time that is the devil's playground, that's what's getting John Morant. You take him out of that, you give him the lights, you give him something to do, and then you give him the success. They go to the NBA Finals with John Morant and New York City. He ain't, the old thing that people like to say, you'll never have to pay for a beer. You'll never have to pay for a gun or a Bentley again. That's it for this episode of Unparalleled Sports Talk. If you enjoyed the episode, make
Terrible.
sure you like, share, subscribe, comment, whatever your podcast platform allows you to do. He's Sleepy Everett Terry Jr., aka Sports Talk Terry, on all social media platforms. I'm Kwame Fisher Jones. Until next week, we appreciate your time and year. You be easy.